Hello everybody, welcome back to the ranch. Dr. Uptown here. I'm bringing you today a Keltec PF9. As you can see, this is in pieces. I will start this video off with the caveat that I have already taken this apart and put it back together. The reason it was brought in was because this 9mm shell casing was stuck in the chamber and it would not allow the slide to operate at all. But the reason I have all these other pieces out here is this is basically how it looked to me when I brought it in, when it was brought in to me. It had all the pins knocked out, including this one, which I did not go ahead and knock out. That is what holds the disconnector into place. But all these other pins were out, along with the disconnector pin, and the disconnector pin and spring were included in the little parts package that I got. And the owner was requesting that I get the thing back into firing condition. So I'm just going to go through this and show you what I had to do to get it back into that state. And then I'll go ahead and finish putting it back together for you. But to start with, like I say, all I could do for slide travel was get about that much slide travel out of it. So the first thought that I had was to go ahead and remove this extractor spring in the extractor. So what I did was just undid the screw that holds those two pieces into place. After removing that screw, out, I was able to go ahead and remove that extractor spring. And with some fiddling and prying and working on it, I was able to finally get the extractor out of place. And what that left me was an exposed chamber area where I could see that that round was still in the chamber. I had prior checked it to make sure that it was an expended round, which in fact it was. So once I was able to do that, I basically was able to, at that point, to get the slide back to the breakdown place. I wasn't able to hold the slide in that position simply because the slide release was one of the parts that was included in the parts bag. But after removing the breakdown pin, I was able to go ahead and move that slide forward and get it off and free. Now, like I say, this gun is in a little bit better condition than it was when I originally brought it in. I did polish the barrel up because it was completely rusted over. I think what had happened was once it jammed up on the owner, it basically ended up thrown in a toolbox or something and just allowed to sit there until they finally decided to bring it in and have somebody take a look at it and fix. Now, since I had done that, one of the things you will notice here is the firing pin is hanging out the back of the slide along with the firing pin spring. The reason for that is you'll notice this firing pin has a notch in it. What operates as the firing pin stop is the end of the screw that holds the extractor spring into place. So that allowed me to get the slide off the frame and completely disassembled. For those of you that are familiar with Keltecs, you'll remember that it's basically just a plastic frame with a metal insert in it that controls your firing group. I did go ahead and already undo the mainspring, but it's just a simple matter of taking a pair of pliers, pulling it out, and putting it into the mag well. But that allowed me to go ahead and remove the trigger group. Like I say, basically, once we got it out, then what we're left with is the basic pieces parts. Now, like I say, you'll notice that there were some parts that were already off. The first one was the slide release, or slide lock, which goes into that position, and then that spring. It's probably difficult to see on this videotape, but this is actually cut for this spring to go in just a certain way. So once that's in place, our transfer bar and spring are in the right location. If you ever get a dead trigger, a lot of times it's because this spring has popped off. There is a small groove for it in that transfer bar, but sometimes you'll find that spring, and that's how we originally found that spring, was pointed up into this direction here, and of course we just had a dead trigger. So once that is all back together, then it's basically ready to reinsert into the frame. The best way that I found to do that was go ahead and drop the trigger in first and kind of work it into location. Now the thing you're going to have to do with this, and it's probably going to be difficult for you to see, is you're going to have to take the disconnector, push it forward, which will allow you to bring the steel housing back into the frame, and that will preset the disconnector onto the hammer. So with that pushed into place, go ahead and reset all these pins back into the frame. So after we get these pins back into the frame, then we're basically ready to follow up our reassembly. So we've got that in place. We'll go ahead and show you how we get that mainspring back in. Like I say, once we've got our grab with the pliers, pulled it up, locked it in, and that puts the mainspring back into location. The slide is just basically, again, going to be a reverse assembly. We're going to go ahead and just drop a few bits of oil in a couple places here while we're reassembling. Now with this extractor spring and screw, we're just going to start that screw because we do have to go ahead and drop that firing pin into location. We'll just put a drop of oil down that firing pin channel. And then go ahead and insert the firing pin back into location, and then tighten that screw down. You can hear the guys talking in the background. I'm in my little hole, but sometimes they can get kind of loud over there. Okay, and that has our firing pin back into location. So we'll go ahead and insert our barrel next. Again, like I say, it was actually quite rusty in appearance, and what we've done is go ahead and put a polish on it to clean that up. I'm just going to run some lube down the inside of the slide to help clean up some of the surface rust and dryness that we have in here. Like I say, this appears that when this did malfunction on them, they just decided that it probably really wasn't worth fixing, or at least they thought that, and they just stuffed it away in a toolbox or something, and now they've decided to see if they could get her fixed up and working. So once we've got that spring in and lubed up, go ahead and pull our slide back. Engage the slide stop, and then we're ready to put our assembly pin back into place. Once we've got that assembly pin back into location, Yeah, we'll just finish this Kel-Tec up. Keep having people come in, want to talk, but that's okay. So once we've got that spring back down where it needs to be, it actually had popped up on us a little bit. So once that spring's in where it's supposed to be, basically just reinstall the breakdown pin back in location. And it's ready to take it out and test it and see how it does. Anyway, that completes the Kel-Tec PF9 disassembly and reassembly from the parts bag that we got. I hope you guys find this interesting. We'll talk to you later. You have a good day.